Hey everybody, it's Jeff Hansen. We're back. We're talking BYU football. It's been a few days since I posted. Where have I been? Got a little under the weather, but also it was the company Olympics at my real job. And there was a sprint that had to be sprinted, and I was the guy who had to do the sprinting. Now, I may not look like a fast man, and I'm not. I'm a fat man. But what I am is a very fast fat man. It's a different category. I'm pretty good. And for 38 of my 40-yard dash, for 38 of those yards, I proved I might be the fastest fat man alive. Those last 2 yards tore my hamstring. It's been a really, really ugly couple of days here at the Hansen house. But I'm back. We're talking BYU training camp. We want to talk about there's been a lot of things that happened. So one thing I want to talk about today, first and foremost, maybe the most important story coming out of camp, period. Apparently, Caleb Etienne is our guy. He's our left tackle, BYU fans. He's the one that we get to support going into the season. First impressions. Woof. I mean, that makes me incredibly nervous. Look, we've talked about the offensive line, the woes from last year, why I'm more optimistic this year, and a lot of that has to do with TJ Woods. Daryl Funk is out, TJ Woods is in, and I think TJ Woods is a great tactician, great coach. I think he gets really, really promising results, really, really elite level results at most of the places that he's been. I don't think that TJ Woods by himself is able to turn a player like Caleb Etienne, who was so bad last year. He was just not good, into suddenly he's a very, very good player, and he's the first name out of Coach Woods' mouth as, hey, who's standing out? Who's your left tackle? That's a heck of a climb. I don't think that happens with just a coach. So I want to, before we talk about this at all, before I get into any details, any possible explanations as to why maybe this will work, let's just have this very thick preface. I'm nervous. I don't like the sound of Caleb Etienne as my starting left tackle going into the season. That makes me incredibly nervous. He's going to have to, it's prove it mode, right? We saw on tape a lack of effort. We saw on tape getting absolutely dusted off the line of scrimmage. We saw on tape a guy who did not know plays, did not know where to block, did not know running schemes. It was bad. He's going to have to prove it to me on the field before I believe in Caleb Etienne again. But, okay, so what maybe happened? Why is Coach Woods so confident? Well, we know that Caleb Etienne lost some weight. Reports between 20 and 30 pounds. That's good. He was slow. He was a little heavy. That's a good thing. 20 pounds, is that enough to make him from a player who was not very good to a player who's very, very good? I don't think so. 20 pounds, I mean, his weight wasn't the reason that he didn't know the playbook. So that's a good thing, but I don't know that that's this fix-all, this silver bullet that makes everything okay. But what else could have happened? Look, I think Caleb Etienne's had a year to lock in, and that helps. He's had a year. His family's been here. There was a lot of split time last year. That's tough on a kid. Maybe that played a role in this. His teammates have really grown to him. He's more comfortable in Provo. He's more comfortable at BYU. TJ Woods is a better coach. I mean, there's reasons that there could be some optimism there. The one thing that Aaron Roderick has talked about with Caleb Etienne is his attitude, right? I mean, he got benched last year. He did not play well. And Caleb Etienne, he didn't pout. He didn't throw a fit. He didn't quit. He didn't transfer. He took his lumps and he worked really hard, and now he's in a better position this year. He's earned the respect of his teammates. That's all good. I mean, there's lots of really good things that have happened in the last year, but holy cow, am I nervous about Caleb Etienne as the left tackle. The rest of the offensive line, with Etienne at left tackle, that means that Isaiah Jatta and Braden Keim are battling it out over at right tackle. I don't think that's a battle. I think Braden Keim, I've had him penciled in as my left tackle. Certainly have him penciled in as my right tackle if he's not going to play over on the other side. If Etienne is the guy that Coach Woods says he is, then I feel pretty good about tackles. I like Braden Keim a lot. Austin Leosa, he's getting most of the reps at the opposite guard of Waylon Lapuaho. So you got Leosa, you've got Lapuaho. That's a pretty solid interior of the offensive line there. And then, of course, Connor Pay in the middle of it all. I like it. I mean, Caleb Etienne's the big, giant question mark, and he's big and giant. I mean, if he could put it together, man, he's like 6'8", he's like 320, he's got NFL size. If he could put this together, Caleb Etienne could be a dominant left tackle. But I'm really nervous about it until we actually see what that looks like on tape. Beyond that, Sonny Mocassini sounds like he's done really well. He's on scholarship now. He was a walk-on. He earned a scholarship this offseason, so that's fantastic. He's a very, very good player. I've heard some good things about Trevin Osler. So there's some depth that needs to fill out there. I still like Jake Griffin a whole lot. So there's some players there, but I think the starting five is starting to really become clear. That was one of Coach Woods' goals. He knew that he needed to find that starting unit as quickly as possible so that they could start to work together, gel together, figure out tendencies and things like that. Sounds like that's what it is. Everybody buckle up. It's the Caleb Etienne show, just a few weeks away. Beyond that, what are we hearing out of fall camp? Whoa, training camp. We don't call it fall camp. It's summer. It's 98 degrees today. What are we hearing? I heard a lot of Gerry Bohanon love. I flip-flopped. I talked about it, that for all offseason long, I've thought Jake Retzlaff is the guy. I think it's got to be Gerry Bohanon if he's healthy. I think that he has more chemistry from what I've heard. He's got a lot of chemistry with a lot of the wide receivers. I think that's going to play a role here. I think he's just that natural leader. His experience speaks really, really loudly. You can't argue with that. One thing he talked about in a press conference when he met with the media, I guess it wasn't a true presser, but in a media scrum a few weeks ago, last week, he said, look, you've got to earn the right to win. Everybody practices the same way. Everybody lifts the same way. Everybody goes through reps the same way. You just got to do it harder. You got to do it better than everybody else. And everybody can say that. Those are just football cliches. But when Gerry Bohanon says it with the resume and the pedigree that he brings with him, it kind of holds a lot more weight. I think that is going to ultimately win out. And then on the field, he looks like he's a different guy than he was in the spring. His mechanics look great. The ball is coming out of his arm really, really fast. It's a tight spiral. It's all that stuff. He's always had the talent, but it looks like he's able to replicate that, do it consistently. We'll see on accuracy, right? Like we'll see on knowledge of the offense. Those are all things that are to be determined. But in terms of just like what he can do physically, it's a different level than where Jake Retzlaff has been. Now, that's not to discount Jake's progress. Jake has made progress. I think he's a better quarterback today than he was a year ago. I don't think he makes the same mistakes that he made that cost BYU Oklahoma games. I think he's able to hit some of those flats, those dump-offs that he could not hit against Oklahoma State. I think Jake Retzlaff is a better quarterback today than he was a year ago. But that's a low bar, right? I mean, that's a low bar. He had a lot of work to do. He's done a lot of work. Ultimately, I think he's still QB2. Beyond that, we're hearing a lot of Sione Moa, frankly, on both sides of the ball. Sione Moa, the linebacker out of Weber High, and then Sione Moa, the running back out of Timpview High. I think both of those Sione Moas, they could both find a way onto the field this year. That's a promising sign. Siale Acera is playing. He's full go. He's healthy. I was nervous about him. Foot injuries are weird. He's full go, and it sounds like he's doing really, really great things at camp. So that's fantastic for the linebacker core that has to figure out how to replace Ben Bywater. That's a big deal. Siale Acera goes a long way. And if a guy like Sione Moa can come in and fill out a spot on the two deep, hey, the linebackers, you're starting to feel pretty darn confident. Biggest concern that I've got, based on just little things that I've heard here and there. Defensive tackles I've been concerned about, still concerned, but I have a new number one concern. It's the cornerback room. There's just a lot of young. What we can say about the cornerback room, I think the future of the BYU cornerback room with guys like Jonathan Cabea and Trey Alexander and Marcus McKenzie, I think it's as bright as it has ever been in Provo. But that's not today. I think today that's a lot of really, really young players that you're going to have to depend on to do really, really good things in the secondary. Otherwise, these offenses in the Big 12 are going to pick on you. I like Jacob Robinson, but look, I mean, when he goes up against those bigger-bodied wide receivers, he struggles. We saw it last year. He had really, really high moments, and then he had some games that he got picked on. That TCU game comes to mind. He got picked on quite a bit. There's going to be a few of those, and if BYU doesn't have somebody else on the other side, he's going to face the top wide receiver every single play, and he's going to get picked on a little bit. Somebody's got to step up. I like Mark Collins. I like Maury Bamba, but I mean, that's an FCS transfer that has an injury history, and that's a former walk-on. That's tough. And then you got a bunch of freshmen beyond that. I'm really nervous about the cornerback room. I think this is Gennaro Guilford's toughest test yet. I think he's proven that he's a phenomenal coach, and he can get this group ready to roll, but I'm a little bit nervous for how things look right now, and I'm a little bit nervous if there's an injury or two. If Jacob Robinson, heaven forbid, if he goes down, buckle up, folks. I mean, it could get really ugly really quickly. I like the safeties. I like everything else, but that's my big concern in the secondary is the corners. There's just so much inexperience there. Somebody's got to step up. We'll see what that looks like. All in all, football, it's just a few weeks away. SMU plays on the 24th, so we get to watch a future opponent a week before we get to watch BYU. That's great. Thank you guys for sticking around. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Give them hell. Go Cougs.